As a current theology master's student at Baylor University, I'm going to be explaining why some people never become who God intended them to be. And so I came to realize something pretty terrifying about my life. I wasn't failing because I lacked faith. I was failing because I was vague. I believed in God, I prayed, I worked hard, but nothing seemed to be moving. I don't know if you can relate to that. But then I came to realize something through scripture, history, and experience that they kind of all agree on. God doesn't bless confusion. And so tonight, I want to show you why most people never become who God intended them to be. Not because they lack belief, but because they lack definiteness of purpose. And so, Napoleon Hill, a world renowned author, he opens up one of his most important topics with a simple claim, and it's super key. Definiteness of purpose is the beginning of all achievement worthy of mention. Not talent, not opportunity, and not connections. See, wherever Hill observed real success, and he did for over 40 years, he noticed one thing in common: clarity that did not waver. And so here's what kind of stood with me and struck me. This isn't just a business principle, this is also a biblical principle. See, in Scripture, God commands work through people who are specific. See, Abraham isn't told, go somewhere. He's told, go to the land I will show you. And we see Nehemiah doesn't say, I want to help Jerusalem someday. He asks for a date, for letters, materials, and authority. And even Jesus, before the cross, comes to say, for this purpose I have come. And so, biblically speaking, calling without clarity leads to this form of paralysis. And so Hill comes to tell a painful story about his own failure as well. He writes this goal down: I will earn 100,000 during the year 1919. And he did earn it, but he didn't receive it. Why, you might be asking? Because his goal was missing two words: and receive. See, here's the issue. Most people think they're being definite, they're being clear, but they're really not. See, Hill came to realize something pretty scary. Vagueness, all it does is leave room for chaos. And so spiritually, this does matter. James tells us that the double minded person is unstable in all their ways, not in some ways, in all their ways. And so, yes, you can be sincere and still be spiritually ineffective. And yes, you can love God and still never move. And so Hill shares that he observed leaders like Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, and Henry Kaiser. And they didn't just give commands, they gave time, place, method, and accountability as well. And so, for example, Kaiser, he didn't ask for steel. He demanded steel on a specific date and sent men to go and guard the shipment. And so that's why he came to build ships faster than anyone ever thought possible. And so this isn't just arrogance, it's alignment. And so here's where theology plays a part and where it matters. Christian faith isn't just passive waiting, it's faithful action within God's sovereignty. And the Proverbs say, the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance. And so notice, God blesses plans, not wishes. Definiteness of purpose is not trusting yourself instead of God, it's stewarding what God has already entrusted to you. And so, coming back to our story with Napoleon Hill, Hill needed $100,000 to start a magazine. He had no money, no security, no guarantees. So he wrote the editorial as if the money already existed. He didn't say, if I get the money. He said, I will publish this magazine this year. I don't know about you, but that sounds like terrifying faith. And so a printer ends up reading the editorial and he says, I like your idea. I like you. I'm going to print it. And so the magazine launches and it does 500,000 copies in 6 months. And it's profitable in its first year. And so Hill later came to realize from that situation that if he had waited for the perfect conditions, it would have never existed. I know what it's like to say someday. I know what it's like to wait for clarity that never comes. And this principle that I just shared with y'all has shaped leaders, industries, and movements, and it's embedded in Scripture itself. And so here's what I want you to do tonight. I want you to write your purpose, not vaguely, not spiritually fluffy. I want it to include the what, when, how, why, and accountability. And tomorrow, I want you to act on this. Because, like we just said, God doesn't bless confusion. He blesses clarity, obedience, and courage. We'll catch you on the next one.